What's up, guys? Welcome to my review of the new 2022 V2 edition of the Xiaomi FIMI X8 SE. Let's take this to southern France and let's see what it can do. Rebecca and I spent the last 2 weeks in southern France checking out some vineyards. I had my first wine tasting. I also tried Calvados for the first time, which, if you guys have heard of that before, it's 45% alcohol. It will pretty much cleanse your palate. But aside from that, I did get to fly the FIMI. So we went out on a little road trip. We took a little Volkswagen T-Roc and one of the FIMI here that I have. And I didn't get to see the footage until I came back home. So the good thing is that I just saw the footage this morning and reviewed that, showed it to Rebecca, and she was pretty surprised at how good this drone did. This one is around less than $600. So for this one to come back with some footage that was on par with my DJI Mavic Mini 3 Pro, I was quite surprised. So 4K footage, 3-axis gimbal, really long flight time, and some new 2022 V2 upgrades actually made this one worth lugging around Europe for 2 weeks. So kick back, relax, and enjoy the footage. After that, we'll come back in. If you're interested in this drone, stick around because I'm going to do a full review after the flight test. Enjoy, guys. Once in a lifetime trip for us and a once in a lifetime flight for me out in the French vineyards. Here we go. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and let me give you the best information I possibly can about the new V2 version and in comparison to some other drones out there you might be considering. You might want to take this one on a trip. You might want to take the DJI Mavic Mini 3 Pro on a trip, or maybe you're considering this because it's literally half the price than most of the DJI drones out there. And some people are talking about remote ID. It is possible that you can put remote ID on this one. It is remote ID ready for when all that comes through, so you can be legit, 100% legit. The biggest thing about this one versus, say, something like the Mini series, in comparison, this is a much larger drone. Now, it is much more to carry when you're traveling, which I did travel with it, and I carried it basically just in my backpack. And what I do a lot of times is I take along something like a Crown Royal bag. These are great. They're soft and they have a little drawstring on the end. And this fits perfectly in the Crown Royal bag and goes into my backpack. And this is a very robust and tough drone. I took it everywhere for 2 weeks. It survived being thrown around in airports, rental cars, on the trains, and just going back and forth from a hotel and being out somewhere, and taking road trips with it. It took everything, all the abuse, which is great. But the next big thing is that when you go on a trip, you have to you're going to be subjected to whatever your weather's like. So if your weather is really bad or you're flying somewhere on the coast and there's high wind, this has a much higher wind resistance level than something like the Mini. The Mini is 249 grams. It is under that 250 gram weight, but this one has a wind resistance of level 5. So that's going to get you 19 to 24 mile per hour when small tree branches are moving. That's about all this drone can handle. Over 25 mile an hour wind, you're risking not being able to fly this one back. I've seen them go down into the water in the ocean, and you can put it in sport mode, and that'll help you get a little more traction in a lot of wind if you have a headwind and you're coming back. But keep in mind, wind resistance level 5 on that one. But the pro of that one is it's lighter to carry on your trip. If you're going on a trip, if you don't care about the weight and you want to be able to fly no matter what, you want to grab something like this, because this one has wind resistance level 8, and at that point it's a 39 to 46 mile per hour wind that this can handle. I wouldn't suggest testing that out, but if you're up flying, the wind comes up dramatically. It's happened when we were kiteboarding in the ocean before. We have to put our kites down really fast. These fronts move in, and if it happens while you're flying your drone, at least you know that this one can handle a pretty large wind. So let's go ahead and check out some of the specs now that we have the wind resistance and the weather conditions down on the FIMI V2. Now, the first thing I want to jump into is the battery. The battery on this one, it will fly up and upwards. Real world conditions around 30 minutes. They do claim that it goes 34 minutes, but if you have any wind at all, that's going to start draining the battery a little more. The more wind you have, the more the drone has to fight against the wind, and the less flight time you're going to have. So take that in consideration. This one does have a 10-kilometer range on it, but in miles, that's about 6.2 miles. So if you're out there 5 miles and you have a pretty good headwind coming back, not a tailwind, you're going to eat up your battery faster. So take that into consideration. This is a 3S battery. It's 11.4 volt, and it is 4,500 milliamp. It does come with a charger in the box, and it charges in a couple hours. You'll see some LEDs on the back side of this light up, and it kind of gives you your current battery status, which is kind of nice. And it plugs in from the very top, so it's not going to wobble loose or come disconnected in flight. Now, the 3-axis camera gimbal for me on the trip, that's where this one did really well. In the last couple years, I have seen some jello in a few of them, a little bit of camera stutter. We've had some horizon level tilt in some of the video that we've done. We've had to recalibrate the gimbal. This one I took straight out of the box on that road trip, had my battery charged up fully, and it was in a situation where when I was on the side of the road in France, I had no idea what this performance was going to be like for this video, and I didn't use any type of filters on the lens, no UV filters, no ND filters, nothing like that. I was just straight out of the box, pure stock footage, and no adjustments inside the app for brightness and contrast control. So when I came home and I finally saw the footage, I was pretty happy with this camera. The camera this time around, it has a 79-degree field of view on here. It has an aperture f1.6, and it has a focal distance of 4.71 millimeters, and effective pixels is 12 million. So it has quite a few pixels inside this camera. We're talking about a 48 megapixel still. That's kind of amazing. The ISO range also 100 to 6400 ISO range on this guy, and you can put an SD card in on the side, right on the side of the drone, and that's up to a 256 gigabyte SD card. They want you to use a U3 micro SD card on this drone, by the way. So you want to pair that up with your drone, and it'll have the best performance. You won't have any video stutter or lag. And again, the video looked fantastic on this drone, and that's mainly because of the Sony half-inch sensor in here. So some of the larger drones out there have half-inch sensors, and the fact that this is a foldable version with a half-inch Sony sensor on here for the camera itself, that's why we came back with such fantastic video. So I think for the price, like $579 for 2 batteries, the controller, the charger, and the drone itself. I mean, if we break that down, these batteries, they come in at around $100. So you get 2 batteries in that, minus $200 out of $579. That's bringing you the drone and the controller for around $379. That's pretty incredible. Now, another new upgrade for this FIMI V2 is this sort of combo loudspeaker and drop mechanism. So this is something where you can use your phone and it can hear your voice. You can play music over it. You can say, hey, what the hell are you doing on my property? Get out of here. Drone surveillance type thing. If you want to be a security guard and you want to use a drone to yell at somebody down by your lake, you can do that. I don't know why you would want to play music over this or even use it as a loudspeaker. I don't know. I don't get that part of it. But if that's something that you, if you want to go annoy people or something like that, drone annoyance, you could do that, and you could drop a water balloon on them at the same time. So it's like, hey, look at me, plop. But this plugs into the very bottom, and it just snaps into place. I don't even have to unfold the arms to do that, and voila, it's as simple as that. And now you have a loudspeaker on here, and you have the drop mechanism. It's just a little bar that comes out in and out right here and allows you to drop a payload. So overall, I'm really not surprised that Xiaomi has come out with V2. It is a very hard time in the world to be able to come out with anything new with electronics because of the chip shortage, and I'm expecting that things would be more expensive. Years ago, the FIMI series used to cost much more, and I remember up to $1,000. So I think that the fact that they're getting them cheaper than $600 right now is saying a lot. And maybe they want to move some of these units and get them out there, but I feel like for what it is, you couldn't get this 5 years ago for this price. It was unheard of. The Mavic was around $1,500, and the Phantom series really expensive with a half-inch sensor. So it's finally caught up to speed with the modern sensors for the gimbal. It has great video, around a 34-minute max flight time with no wind. I think it's great. It has multiple flight modes on here, very much the same as DJI, like orbit mode. It can do waypoints and mapping. It has search and rescue mode, which will put it into kind of a low battery saver mode to allow it to fly a longer battery life when you're looking for somebody. And the fact that the batteries are coming in with this combo of 2 for $579, that's a pretty good deal. So start out with 2 batteries and then work your way up if you need more flight time. The controller itself hasn't changed, and I didn't show that in the review just because, well, if you've watching reviews and you're considering buying this, you've probably already seen it in someone else's review or years past. It's absolutely the same controller that we had before. It's great for travel too. Again, my video is all about travel, but the sticks come on and off, which is really helpful. And the Mavic series drones also do that. Years ago, they didn't used to come off, and people complained because they got broken during travel. So now they come off, and this will hold a much larger device than most of the drone transmitters out there also. So that's a big pro about this one, and it comes with multiple different types of connectors for standard USB-C phones. It has the Apple Lightning here, and it also does the micro USB. So depending on whatever type of phone you have, it will be able to work with this. And it also has now 2 different types of transmission available. And here it has that new updated transmission. It can do 4G, and it can also do Wi-Fi. So you can go pretty far on 4G, and a lot of people are looking for that. So that's one other thing I really wanted to get in this review and give you that information. But I'm happy with it, and I'm happy with the footage that I came back with, and the fact that it did its job. When I was in a situation where I didn't have time to go back and get on my computer, do a bunch of research on the phone, and it just went up it did its thing in the stock settings, and I came home with absolutely gorgeous, I mean, once in a lifetime chance footage in this review. So it was important to me. I was afraid I was going to come back. It is possible to come back with garbage. So I'm very happy that this worked out the way it did. And I would recommend it as one of my top fives in 2022. I'm going to give this one 2 thumbs up for Xiaomi's hard work on just making this one even better this year. And fixing the camera gimbal is a big deal to a lot of folks out there. So now you can buy this one without worrying about having a subpar camera. You're going to get something that is absolutely every bit worth the money. So it is one of my top picks right now. But I appreciate you watching my reviews, guys, and hanging out with me and flying drones and RC. You'll see some more stuff coming up on the channel and what's new. So please do subscribe. And just want you to know I appreciate you. Thank you. And use my links if you'd like to. And Rebecca and I will see you on the next one. Take care.